And our top story right now, the European Union is working on what would be its 11th round of sanctions since Russia invaded Ukraine last year. And this time it is focused on cracking down on those breaking trade restrictions which are already in place.
Yes, and in order to achieve this, the European Union has proposed a new tool to limit trade with third countries who seem to be involved in bypassing sanctions.
Now, this document, it's an updated proposal by the bloc's Executive European Commission for the 27 member states. And it comes after Germany expressed concern during the first discussion last week over any possible future restrictions in trade with China.
Yes, apart from Germany, several other countries also emphasized on how it is important to strike a balance between enforcing sanctions and upsetting the international diplomatic and trade ties. Beijing in recent months has emerged as a global power, and sanctioning it would have huge economic ramifications.
Meanwhile, compared with the original proposal, this new draft would make sanctioning third countries more difficult here. A new paragraph in the draft was added saying that before making a proposal to include any third country on the list of countries concerned, alternative measures should be considered, such as individual listings as well.
And for more on this, we are now being joined by Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis from Sterling, Virginia. He is a military expert and senior fellow for defense priorities. Thanks very much, Colonel Davis, for speaking with us.
Thanks for having me.
Sir, let's begin by asking you, the European Union has proposed this new tool to limit trade with third countries. What can you tell us about the practical implications of this move?
I think what you're seeing here is evidence that many in Europe are starting to get to the point where they're saying, hey, this war in Ukraine needs to come to an end, because if it continues to have negative economic impacts on the various countries, then their people are starting to get a little bit tired of that, in honesty. And we've seen in many places, a lot of the people in these European countries are actually protesting against some of the measures that are going on. And they don't believe that their economies or their livelihoods need to be harmed because of it. Moreover, I think that they're starting to see that there's not much further Ukraine can go on the ground militarily. And so they're starting to look beyond this, and they don't want to have any punitive impacts now that could actually harm their trade in the short and medium term. They want to start looking beyond that. So they're going to make it more difficult to sanction people so that they can have an easier time to do trade, especially with China.
Right, sir. Another point here is that it appears that the EU is now, as you mentioned as well, trying to strike a balance, also prioritize striking a balance here when it comes to third countries. Beijing, as we know, has emerged as a major global power here. How effective do you think this move would be when it comes to taking a strong position, especially in the backdrop of the war in Ukraine?
I don't think that they're going to. I don't think the European Union is going to strike a hard position on China because, China, they just had their foreign minister on a tour of many European countries. They've got some other peace talks going on now, and you can be assured that there's more than just peace talks going on between China and the members of the European Union. And so they're having a pretty active diplomacy. And I think that most of the people do want this war to come to an end. Now, of course, they would like to see Russia punished. Ideally, they would like to see Russia defeated. But I think they're starting to come to the realization that there's not a big prospect for a military defeat of Russia right now. And so they're starting to say, hey, China is willing to do business with us. They can help us expand our economy by opening markets. And I think that many of them are going to continue to move in that direction. And I think China's going to have some success.
All right. Lieutenant Colonel Davis, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast with your insights on this.
Thanks for having me.